Technologies and innovations are the mother of all inventions, and to better provide for the teeming Nigerian population, the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kyari, says the ministry will soon begin free distribution of about 42,000 metric tons of grains as approved by the President to Nigerians across the country. He disclosed this at the maiden edition of the Ministerial Press Briefing series organized by the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in Abuja. Let's take a listen.
I must say here that food security is the accessibility and availability and affordability of food, nutritious food for that matter. Now, down the line on our first Federal Executive Council, we were given the 8-point agenda of Mr. President. The 8-point agenda, number 1 is food security, number 2 is poverty reduction and economic growth, number 3 is job creation, and number 4 is access to capital, number 5 is inclusivity of women and youth. Of course, the rest is fight against corruption and insecurity. Now, when you look at all these items, agriculture plays a very, very vital role in most of the 8-point agenda. Of course, today, agriculture is the largest employer of labor, thereby the shortest route for job creation is agriculture, and also the food security aspect like I mentioned earlier. Ladies and gentlemen, when all that was rolled out, we also at the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security came out with our blueprint where we spelled out the immediate, the medium, the short-term and medium-term and long-term plans. What we have seen is there is absolutely, and this is exactly what is being rolled out, at that time was that food security was challenged because of the harvest that we saw in 2023 wet season was just a marginal increase of that of 2022. And we all knew what happened from COVID time, where agriculture was impacted all over the world, including Nigeria, and also the 2021-2022 rainy season where we had massive flooding around the country. And in fact, even the 2022 harvest of October, November, when the Naira redesign policy was issued, farmers were impacted on that. And subsequently, when they were just about to plan for cultivation for 2023 wet season, availability of cash was not there. And of course, we all knew that cash is a critical factor in agriculture, because not only are you going to pay farm hands and helps, but you also need to purchase inputs in the rural areas, and you require cash. That seriously impacted on the ability of farmers to have access to farm inputs for 2023. So that in itself had impacted on food supply. And what we saw later down the line was that of course the issue of market, of supply and demand played a role. We have a country that has a growing population. When in 1960, on the day of independence, Nigeria had 40 million or 45 million people. Today we have 230 million. And of course, we all know that the land is shrinking. We have desertification from the north, we have coastal erosion and flooding in the middle part of the country, and of course, some of the conflict areas that we have seen that has impacted on the supply of land. So land mass is shrinking, and at the same time, access to capital was also becoming unavailable for our farmers. That is not to say that they did not cultivate. Yes, they did some cultivation, but like I said, the action of supply and demand really impacted on the supply of food, and that is hence the reason why the state of emergency was declared on food. Now, what was the way forward? What were actions that were taken since from that time? We have looked at the cultivation window of the dry season. Starting from November, December, we had the wheat season in the first phase of the dry season, which was under the NAGS, the National Agricultural Growth Scheme, Agro Pocket Scheme, which was assisted by the African Development Bank and also intervention by Mr. President. We rolled out a program for 120,000 hectares of wheat, of which Jigawa had the largest share of 40,000 hectares, and we had in 15 wheat growing states. That was a program that we came and met, that was rolled out, that had a program where agro inputs were subsidized by 50%. We observed a lot of challenges on the first phase, which is the wheat, where we had the subsidy was 180,500 naira, and the farmer was expected to bring 180,500 naira for his own share. That was a tall order for a lot of farmers, and we saw that the farmers, a lot of them could not come up with that amount of money, and that also gave way for agro dealers or other sharks to intervene and did a lot of round tripping of inputs and also purchase of tokens, incentivizing the farmers to relinquish their tokens for other economic gains. So basically, the other intervention that we looked at is the grain reserve. Currently, we have 53,000 metric tons of grain reserve in our reserves, in our silos across the country. We have requested to release 42,000 metric tons, and for a very good reason. We need the 11,000 metric tons for any eventuality. In fact, it is there that we have to have a buffer in case of any disaster, in case of any unforeseen. We're not praying for it, God forbid, but in case there's anything that requires for us to act immediately, we should have some kind of reserve. So the 42,000 is in the process of release, and we're waiting for indexes, and we have already started talking with NEMA. We were together yesterday, and we try to see how, because the reserves are in different locations, and permit me, I won't be able to tell you where the locations are. I have them, but for security reasons, we should not be able to tell to the world where the locations are. But they are spread across the country, and we are assiduously working with NEMA to see how we can get those to where it is needed the most.
Senator Kyari also revealed that 150,000 hectares of rice will be cultivated during the second phase of the dry season farming, adding that 300,000 genuine farmers will benefit from the federal government's subsidized certified quality seeds and agro inputs such as fertilizers, micronutrients, herbicides and pesticides.
In addition, the other issues that we have also observed was the list, the data of farmers list that we have we use in the wheat. A lot of the data was not verified. The There were non-farmers there. There were what we quote-unquote political farmers were on that list. So these are the challenges that we face in the wheat. But coming to the rice, second phase, we had the rice, the maize, and also cassava. Rice, today under the NAG's Agro Pocket, we have 150,000 hectares. But what we now did was, instead of attaching 1 hectare per farmer, we now said we could use half hectare per farmer. So with 150,000 hectares, we are now targeting 300,000 farmers. With the rice, the inputs are less than that of wheat, and now we're using half hectare, so it's half the inputs. That is to say, in rice you use 6 bags of fertilizer. So with half a hectare, it's 3 bags. So what, in a sense, the farmer gets is 3 bags. So with the NAG's 50% subsidy is a bag and a half. The farmer pays for bag and a half. We have also gone ahead, because we have intervention funds from Mr. President, to further subsidize that 1.5. So we are expecting the farmer to pay half a bag of fertilizer, and he gets 3 bags. That is to say, NAGS is paying 1.5 bags, and also the farmer pays half bag, and the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, through the intervention, is paying 1 bag. And all these items that I'm talking about also includes the agrochemicals, and seeds is free. All seeds, be it wheat, maize, or rice, or cassava, are all free. So we believe with this program, we expect to get much benefit from the farmers this time around. In addition, we also use the intervention funds to increase the hectarage. 150,000, like I said, will maybe yield about 600,000 tons of rice. So we felt that's a bit small, but that is not to say that there are other farmers that are not doing cultivation for rice. The whole spectrum that we expect to get from the dry season is anywhere between 2.5 to 3 million tons of rice. Now, with the intervention that we're trying to do, we're trying to see at least we achieve nothing less than 1 million tons. 1 million tons will be provided by 500,000 farmers. So we want to now cultivate, instead of 150, in addition to that of the NAGS, we do additional 100,000 and making it 500,000 farmers, making 1.1 million, at least 1 million tons of rice. That is also for the maize. The maize under the NAGS has 30,000 hectares, which is 60,000 farmers. Maize for dry season doesn't do too well as rice, but for the dry season, we want to increase the maize to 50,000 instead of 30,000, so 100,000 farmers, and for cassava from 20,000 to 30,000 hectares. Now, let me say this, that what we are experiencing today is that it's a factor of supply and demand. And this is where we are looking at, is to ramp up production. And the dry season is one of those areas we want to institutionalize in this country, encourage and have farmers do dry season. But dry season, of course, is only centered around irrigable lands, where there is irrigation and water availability. So we have some frontline states that have ample water irrigation, and for the 150,000 hectares of rice, we intend to cut across the whole ecosystem of the country, that is to say all the states. And we have gone ahead and invited state governors to express interest in those cultivation, and we have set up committees from top to bottom, the national, the state, and the local government, where we have, in the state, for instance, if either the state governor or his representative will be the chairman of that committee, and they have agreed, actually, through the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, we have received in our office, over 15 governors have paid us courtesy visit and expressed interest and commitment that they are going to partake in the dry season farming. So in addition to that, what I mentioned about the farmer data list, we have also asked them to certify those lists from the local government. That is to say, we will have at the local government level, we will have a series with about 18 or so officials, which also includes farmer associations in those local governments and also traditional rulers. We have seen in the past where people would put names of associates and friends in the farmer data list, but what we have said is to identify the farmland first. If you go and identify the farmlands and then you put the name to the farm, not to go and get somebody's name and put without having to know whose farm is or where his farm is. So it's first and foremost you identify the irrigable farmland before you attach the name to it. We believe in the short interim, in the short time that we have, we'll be able to avert a lot of those issues that arose from the wheat where there was fake data on the farmers. However, we also intend to do a comprehensive data capture of genuine farmers immediately as we flagged off this rice. The rice is, like I said, is situated only in 250,000 hectares. We have arable land today in Nigeria of about 70 million hectares, and we only utilize about half of that. So when you look at what we're saying is that what the list that we require now is for 250,000 hectares. But a more robust and comprehensive data will come where you will have to have, even now we are taking BVNs and NIMs and all the data factors for a person, and we try to also look at the geolocation of those farms, and so that we can use geospatial technology to address these farmers. So basically for what we are faced here, there are many interventions. One, like I said, is ramp up production. It's an issue of supply and demand. Number two is to make sure we secure our borders from pilferage. Now, let me just touch an issue that I made a statement at the National Assembly where I said the CFA is 2 naira now, and that is an attraction for what I meant was there was export. Export is good for any country, but when it's undocumented, when government does not derive taxes or any levy or any tariffs from that export or any repatriation of that funds coming from outside back into the country, then it does not serve us. So that was what I was meaning, that the undocumented export that I meant was that the export is good, but how do you now capture benefit to the country as export? So that is, in a sense, I didn't go against what government policy in terms of the exchange rate. The exchange rate, floating exchange rate, we all know, is the best for this country. But what we need to do is to ramp up production. It's the issue of supply and demand. So we are trying to see how we can incentivize our farmers to the ramp up production.
You're still watching Agric today on ARCN TV, Mabushi, Abuja, Nigeria, and I'm sure that you're overjoyed by this free grains distribution news. Still at the same briefing, the Agric Minister also said that apart from rice, farmers will be supported with inputs to cultivate maize and cassava to boost food production in the country.
Then the other issue that is very key and very important is the issue of mechanization. We have seen over the period that one of the largest impediments is preparation of land. Like I said, today we have almost 70 million hectares of land, but available for cultivation is half of that, which is about 30 to 35 million hectares. Partly because land clearing is an issue. I know we have NALDA, but it's not under the Ministry of Agriculture, and we're trying to work with them and see how they can assiduously provide land clearing for agricultural land. Then the issue of tractorization. We have signed an MOU with John Deere where they are expected to supply 2,000 tractors per year for 5 years, but they were going to offset, they are going to sell those tractors under a financing agreement. And we have engaged the Bank of Agriculture to also come up with the modality of how we can now give low interest rate for farmers where they can get those tractors for those that are interested in. For those that cannot afford, we also have another program that is called the Green Imperative Program. If you may have seen last week, they were around, they came and they had a courtesy visit to the office of the Vice President. His Excellency, the Vice President, hosted them. We had people from the Brazilian Embassy and also the conglomerate working with the Brazilian government, and Deutsche Bank, the financiers of the Green Imperative. The Green Imperative is $1 billion program where they're expected to set up service centers in all 774 local governments. Those service centers are to cater not only for tractorization but for also extension services, and they are private partnership driven. It's a private sector mostly driven. So what they're supposed to do is, if a farmer wants his land cleared or prepared, they have tractors in those service centers where the farmer can pay for hire and they'll go and clear and prepare those lands. So that's the novel idea. The Green Imperative worked in Brazil, and we want to take after that so that at least the farmer will have access to tractorization even if he doesn't have the funds to buy a tractor. And that in itself, that service center would also participate in extension services to the farmer, because if the farmer progresses, he also progresses. So they will have an outgrower scheme. They will also have a situation where they can even give services in return for kind. That is to say, they can hire tractors, but they return the payment through their produce, whatever they produce, whether it's rice or vegetables or what have you, just that they can pay for those services. So that is a very good and noble idea, and that is supposed to roll out in the nearest future. It's been on for the past 6 years. It couldn't take off. Mr. President is assiduously interested for this to take off for the mechanization aspect of the country. So also we have also received other proposals of a similar program where it's going to be it's a combination, because what government can do, government has to subsidize interest rate so that the farmer can have access to capital. In addition to that, we have under the National Council of Privatization, the Bank of Agric and the Nigerian Agricultural Insurance Corporation are going sort of re-engineering under the Bureau of Public Enterprises, where recapitalization of the Bank of Agric is on. And also you recall that there is the National Agricultural Development Fund that is newly set up, and even in this 2024 appropriation bill, 100 billion was approved and provided for National Agricultural Fund for activities for 2024. So we have a lot of sources where we can impact on the farmer and try to see how the farmer can be incentivized. The other thing that missed out on the rice, the support that we are giving farmer, that is not to say that we are going to leave. The farmer will pay, like I said, half a bag, and you will receive 3 bags of fertilizer. But in return, we are also expecting the farmer, because we calculated that the farmer will get about anywhere between 27 to 30 bags of paddy. 27 to 30 bags of paddy. And we're expecting the farmer to also give to the food reserve 2 bags free of charge, based on the profit, based on the support that we have given the farmer.
And that's it on Agric today. With the 30,000 hectares of maize to be cultivated and other interventions across all the states of the Federation, it is hoped that food productivity will be sustained in the country. And that's it on Agric today for the week. Thank you for being a great company. Bye for now.